Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast history. I'm one of your hosts, Bill Caskey.
Other hosts, Bryan Neale here.
I'm the taller of the two hosts.
This is for sure. I did a little road show and I met some listeners, Bill. We haven't talked about this actually. And that was one of the things we talked about was you never know how tall people are. So
no, that's right. On Zoom. We're all the same.
It's true. Everybody's the same.
Yeah. So if you have not listened to us before, if this is your maiden voyage, welcome. I can't imagine that you haven't heard the Advanced Selling Podcast, but we do have 300 million people who have not listened. So bound to be a few of you who this is your first episode. But go to advancedsellingpodcast.com. On the front page of that site, there are some of our top selling, I use that term loosely, episodes.
Great price on those too. Great price.
Great price, yeah.
Right. All episodes, promotional price. I was with my daughter. She turned 22 over the weekend. Some of her friends they're all graduated now, so they're all getting jobs, and a few of them have sales jobs. And you know how it comes up, like, they're talking about podcasts or something. Like, I have a sales podcast. I'm like, you do? So I'm getting these texts, and of course I'm still Mr. Neale to the guys, but the younger generation is catching on. Yeah, totally. Cool. And then just a little bit. And they're like, you have a pod. They say it like that, like, you have a podcast. I'm like, I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it for a minute. I'm like 17 and a half years. Like 17 and a half years. I didn't know they had podcasts back then. And these kids were 5 then. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, they're a little bitty. But speaking of the generation, this is just a little thing I'm aware of. You and I are both radio guys, you know what I mean? Local media type kind of junkies. We like that stuff. Mm-hmm. The local news, I think, is dying a slow death. I don't understand how local news is going to continue because no kids under the age of 25 have any clue that it even exists, much less who the people are in that sort of thing.
Well, your wife was in local news. She was local
media,
local media.
Yeah, totally, 100%. Yeah,
and she probably has some opinions. She probably even saw the handwriting on the wall, maybe.
Well, she was in the newspaper, which might be even.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
well, same deal.
Yeah, same deal.
But I still love local news. When I travel, I love to watch local news, and this is what I think the problem is now with local news. They're running out of things to talk about, and their ideas aren't that fantastic. So I was watching a local newscast here about some of the traffic construction we've got in our city. Indianapolis is just under a lot of construction now. A lot of cities are. Yeah. So she did this piece on the construction, showed where all the roads are going to be closed. Then she gave some tips on how to navigate through the traffic closures. You ready for the tips, Bill? Here are the tips. Here are the tips to avoid traffic. Tip number 1, leave before rush hour. If you get out a little bit earlier, you'll avoid the traffic. Tip number 2, leave a little later at night after the rush hour.
If you have to pick somebody up at 6, leave at 8. They don't care.
Did you go to college to come up with these tips?
Well, these are Chat GPT. These are AI tips. These are AI tips.
I'm like, come on, guys. We got to, if you want to survive local news, you got to try a little harder than that. Yeah. Like, give me a secret route that no one knows about or something like that. Or, you know what I mean?
Well, but it's like when there's rain coming into the forecast, there's rain coming in and the tips are, hey, first off, make sure there's an umbrella next to the door that you can take. Number 2, when you raise the umbrella, make sure it's not in somebody's face and you poke it. Come on.
I love local news, which is why I hate this, because I think it's dying a slow death, and I wish it wouldn't. I wish it would still be there.
It's good for laughs. So that's good.
But I'm like, you got to try a little bit. You know what I mean? Just like, if you want to avoid the traffic, leave a little earlier. Here's a second tip: stay a little later. And they were like graphics and stuff. I'm like, what are we doing? Anyway. So,
hey, is your microphone working?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Sure. You can hear it okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you not?
All right. It doesn't sound its normal robust self.
Oh, so, really?
That's okay.
Really?
It sounds like it's coming through the
thing. Hang on. Maybe let me just fact check that real quick. Where am I? Sorry, Travi. Let's see. How you like me now?
Oh, that's much better.
What do you think? Let's carry on. Like, just pick up where we left off.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, Bryan, now I can hear the full full-throated.
I took my studio down a little bit and had to put it back together this morning and forgot to click the right setting. So this should sound a little better, huh, Bill?
If you ever think that Bill Caskey does not have good ears,
thank you.
There you go.
You are wrong.
Evidence.
All right.
Data point.
We got to do a topic. That's on me. Sorry.
Okay.
Topic.
So here's the topic I thought we could talk about today is I'm doing a series for a client on the dilemmas that CEOs and VPs of sales face today. And there are a few. I'm not going to go into them, but we'll talk a little bit more about it as we get closer to it. The piece is not done yet. But as I was thinking about that over the weekend, I thought, well, sales professionals and our audience, whether you're a manager or a sales pro, you face dilemmas as well. And Brian and I talked a little bit before we went live, and the idea is, yeah, we all face dilemmas. So I don't know what he's going to pick for the 2 or 3 that he's going to create. I'm going to pick a couple that I've got down here. So I guess the point here is, do you face these dilemmas? And if you do, at the end, we'll give you some ideas on how maybe you can navigate around them or through them.
Yeah, I love that. And I think going into this, what got me a little lit up was I've heard this process or this idea of, dilemmas in a different way, but very similar from in some of the sports arenas I play in. So in my refereeing job, we talk about players in situations have choices to do something. They have a choice to lower their head or keep their head up. They have a choice to hit the quarterback in the aiming point, like midsection versus hit him below the knee. They have choices. Our friend Rob Bell, friend of the show, Rob Bell, Dr. Bell.
Does he know it? Does he know he's a friend of the show?
I don't think he does, but I'd be happy to hear. He calls them hinge moments. That's what he coaches professional golfers and triathletes. And these hinge moments are these dilemmas, these places of resistance where I'm like, I've got to do something now. And I have to make this choice. And I think it's a really good topic. I know you mentioned VPs of sales and sales leaders and obviously salespeople. Most of you listening are salespeople. You have the same thing. You have a choice. You have multiple choices every day to do certain things and take action or not take action or wait or call or text or not, So, yeah, great topic.
Yeah, and I think there's the macro version of that, which is the big picture stuff. Do I stay at my job or do I look for something else? Or do I stay in employment of somebody or do I start my own thing? And then there's also the little things like, do I text or do I email? Do I do it at 8 or 9? And I'd like to focus on some of the bigger issues, existential issues of your, you realizing your potential and things like that.
I like it.
I also think that, when you were talking about Rob Bell, like you gave the example, did I say like twice in a sentence?
I don't know.
Well, to play it back. When you have a choice, like you talked about the double bogey, you've bogeyed 2 holes in a row.
Yes.
You got a choice. Do I change my mental frame or do I keep going down the same path with the same club?
Totally.
So that's an easy choice because that golfer knows they have to make that decision. But what's not as easy is when we have kind of acquiesced to those around us, maybe our bosses, maybe our family, maybe our managers, our culture, and we don't even think we have a choice because the person who's earning $200,000 a year and hates their job, but is doing it for the money, they have a choice. They just don't think they do. So part of us doing this is to maybe shine the light on some of these dilemmas that you might have that you don't even think about because you've put them so far out of your mind. It's like, oh no, I could never leave, this company because they've done so much for me, even though I hate my freaking job. Yes, you do have a choice. So hopefully this will expand our awareness about some of those choices we have.
I like. Do you have a specific you want to start with?
Yeah, I've got one, which I kind of
Sure.
previewed there a little bit. There's a lot of people who are unhappy with their current position. And I don't know if it's any more than normal, but I think leaders generally are not attuned to this. They do not see this. And then a person leaves and they're shocked because they say, well, I had no idea, Brian. I had no idea you were unhappy. Man, you should have come to me. What can we do to sweeten the pot a little bit? And it's like, no, I'm gone. That ship sailed months ago.
Yep.
And so if you're in a position like that, you do have some choices. A, switch. B, start your own thing. I've got a couple of friends who are in that position right now. One's thinking about starting his own thing. One's thinking about switching companies and really switching industries because he's in an awful industry. And you have to think through those things. And you have to almost have a faith that it's all going to be okay no matter what. If I start my own business and have to close it, oh, well, I'll learn something. If I go to the other company and realize, oh, I left a pretty good situation, I didn't realize it, to a worse situation. So I think that's a dilemma: is do I stay or do I go? Do I status quo it or do I change it?
Great song by The Clash. Should I stay or should I go?
It is.
It's an 80s kid thing. It's really great. It's so funny. I love rewinding that. So if you're listening to this, no matter if you're in that case where you're like, oh, my job, or doesn't matter what it is, you do have a choice. That's the first trick to this thing, is get out of the mentalities of I don't have a choice. I can't do this.
I'm stuck.
All the things. And there's all sorts of reasons. Well, I got a family and a mortgage and blah, 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 and I can't, or I don't have these skills or whatever. You've got to go 180 from those things and get out of that mentality that I can't or I won't, because it's wrong. It's not true. Because we've seen a lot of layoffs on the other side of that. We've had some really big layoff announcements, 2,000, 4,500 big names. John Deere just announced a big one. Kronos, these huge software company, huge, thousands of people. They made the choice for you. It's so funny. How many people sitting there got laid off that were in the dilemma phase going, well, I don't know. Is that they got great benefits here at Kronos? And I'm not dissing on Kronos because I get it, but
that's right.
It's like, and then the choice was made for you. So there was a choice. It's like, you got to get out of this mentality. Like, I can't, blah, blah, blah. So
that's a great example,
right?
Great example. And, my daughter is with a company and she's starting, the numbers are not where they need to be. Not going to say the company, obviously, but numbers are not there. They haven't been there. And now there's rumors of cutbacks, reduced rifts, as we used to call it. And I said to her, okay, you better start paying attention to the tea leaves, to the signs, tea leaves. Yeah. And you better get your resume warmed up, get your LinkedIn warmed up. Well, it's not really time. And I don't think it's going to affect me. Yeah, they always say that.
Yeah,
we always say it's not going to affect
till
me.
It does. Right. Till it does.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. And you have those are all dilemmas and choices. Well, I don't want to put myself out there if I know I really like my job and I don't, that's a choice. And then you got to live with the choice. I think that's the other thing to think about, whatever you choose. So,
what's yours?
So I have one here that is, again, I try to go like more big picture to start, but it might be just a little underneath big picture. I argue that you have chosen the income level that you're at. You have chosen the income level that you're at. And so most salespeople listening, when Bill and I go talk to groups, we say, who wants to make $3 million a year in a sale? Every hand goes up. I'm like, how many of you are? Typically 0 hands go up. Occasionally, very rarely, there might be an industry where a salesperson makes $3 to $5 million. Very, very rare. Very rare. So I'm like, okay, so and what's the next level for you? So you're making 200 grand, you want to get to 500. You're making 500, you want to get to $1 million. You can't go there, I don't think, until you realize that you've chosen to be where you're at. You've chosen that, and you can choose differently, but choosing differently means choosing differently. It doesn't mean you get to do all the stuff and be the way that you were before. You have to choose to be different. You have to choose to prospect different deals. You have to choose to hang out with different mentors and people that will draw you up. And so I want you to think about that, because you're driving around people like, I want to get better at sales, listen to the Advanced Selling Podcast. I want to make some more money. Like, you got to first say, well, you've chosen to be where you're at. Person going, well, not really. I mean, base salaries in my industry are this. Well, you've chosen to be in your industry,
That's right.
So,
tough talk from Bryan from B. Neale today.
It's what it is.
We need to be bringing up. That's why I love this topic, is we need to be bringing up these things, because people deep down, that. Deep down, we all know that we choose our income level. I know I do. And I'm not proud of it. It's just a fact. So, but once you realize it, then you can say, okay, how do I craft the next level? How do I get to the next level? It's not through working harder. It's probably through another alternative means. But until you even have that conversation with yourself, you're stuck.
Yeah. You're not going to go anywhere, for sure.
Yeah.
You got another one there?
Yeah, I've got one here. Do I create or do I subscribe? And this means, do I subscribe to someone else's creation or do I create my own? The example of this is I've got a group of high achievers that I meet with, and one of the guys in the room is very creative, and he's never really used his creativity. And he is starting a new business, and he now is into creation of his content, creation of all the graphics and the design around. He's not doing it, but he's in control of who does it, and he's having a blast with it. And this attribute sat dormant for him for so long. He loved creativity and creation, but he didn't do it because he was always subscribing to the company's marketing plan or to somebody else. And so when I say subscribe, I mean let somebody else do it, or do you do it? And I love the attitude. And I've said it before. Oh, I'm not that creative. Well, you have tools today that can make you creative. And I'm not suggesting that you stop calling on $1 million deals and start spending more time in Canva, which is beyond. I'm not saying that. Don't hear it that way. And I know that's the way a lot of you will hear. Well, I don't have time to get creative. No, but you have the mind to be creative. And so are you using it? And are you bringing other people together and say, you know what, I'm imagining a little bit different a cover on this PDF, and I want some artistry in it. I want the fonts to be this, and I like what Elon Musk did with this, and can we do something? If it's not up to you, you're just subscribing to somebody else. So
yeah, I love that. I have a silly thing to throw back to people when they tell me they're not creative.
Okay.
I say, have you ever had like a dream when you're sleeping? Somebody's like, well, yeah. I'm like, have you ever had like a really weird dream that you remember? Like, oh yeah. So one time I was in this baseball game and it wasn't really a baseball game, but it was like baseball and cricket combined. Da, da, da. I'm like, where'd that come from? It's in your brain. It's in there. It's all of us have it in there. All of our dreams come, and the dreams are weird, aren't they? You could never think to like come up
intellectually,
with that. Right. No. But the point is, it's in there. It's a matter of finding space to let that come through. It's in there in somewhere.
Yeah.
That's great. Let's see. So another dilemma that I think people have, I'm going to piggyback a little bit on to you talked about the content thing. I think most people struggle with the dilemma to create intentionality around their personal branding and what they show, which I know. Do you have it on there?
Number 5.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Look at there. See, that's a dilemma. And the dilemma, and I just had this, I just taught a LinkedIn session to a newer client, and lots of resistance around this. Yeah. I'm not on social. I don't want to put myself out there. All these are dilemmas, and they're all choices. You choose to or choose not to. And the choice not to shuts off this massive, massive flow and opportunity for ideas and connections and help and leverage. Just shuts it off cold if you choose not to. Choosing to, the things that people are most worried about are fictitious completely. Because I call this inflated self-importance. People are afraid to put themselves on video or put a post up because they're afraid to get judged by others.
Yeah.
There are 950 million LinkedIn users. No one gives a crap about you. They don't at all. They'll scroll right by you. You're so inconsequential at this point when you're starting, you won't even show up in anybody's feed. It's like nobody's going to see you. And you got to get over yourself. But that's a dilemma and a choice. It's very real. I've got one client that the whole team is just like shut off by this thing. You know what I mean? We did this whole LinkedIn stuff, and the VP of sales like, hey, it's just not landing well. Let's switch gears, whatever. Okay, whatever. So let's.
Well, yeah, but that's that's another dilemma. You and I probably talk offline about that, but we've brought it up. It's like when the VP of sales doesn't want to do the thing that you're recommending that they do, that will result in the thing they say they want. They say they want everybody to be at higher levels. I do. I want everybody to be doubling their income, but LinkedIn's a bridge too far. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What? Right. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn. Again, forget about the actual platform and think about, are your people building their personal brand? Your competitor will. If he's not right now, they will be doing it very quickly, and you're going to be shut out.
Yeah, it's a choice. You're just shut out. It's at the beginning. That whole personal branding to open. That's a binary choice. If you're out, you are out. You'll receive nothing from it. If you're in, it's just like this place to like look around and be. And the risk is very, very, very minimal. Yeah. Very minimal. So that's a dilemma.
Okay, so we talked about 4 there, and my only solution to these is if you heard yourself in these, then explore them a little bit, dive a little bit deeper, get into what are the real choices and what are the benefits? I hate to do the pro-con thing, the T what's the advantage and what's the disadvantage, but sometimes that helps break free some of your reluctance to take the new road, the path, the road less traveled, as we say.
Getting deep.
I know. Anyway, so that's what I would do, is just explore it a little bit. Don't be ashamed that I've got a dilemma, and go home and talk to your spouse, partner, and say, hey, I've been giving some thought. The Advanced Selling Podcast really hit a chord with me today.
All right.
Let's all gather around and listen.
Yeah, document your weird dreams. See, you're creative there. The other thing, the last thing I'll stamp out thought-wise with this is the choice. So we're talking about dilemmas, and then a choice to choose differently does not have to be monumental. It can be a very small little choice. Added up over time becomes very, very big. So it's not like you have to go from 0 to 10.
I love that. So true.
You have to. And that's the other thing. I think people, they think they have to do the whole thing at once. You know what I mean? Like, I've got to go, I'm making $100,000. I got to make $1 million tomorrow. Like, no, just go to 120, but you got to make a different choice to go from 100 to 120. Like that.
I've got a story I'll tell next podcast. We're out of time today. The tape is running. I got about 30 seconds left.
We're tight on
tape. This 3/4 inch tape here. Okay. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.